And welcome back to Crossroads. We continue to have some lighting problems here, some power problems at 3 Times Square in the Reuters building, but we move on because the news is important.
Right, that's what we do here. The U.S. military said on this day that 3 United States soldiers were killed in a roadside bombing in Afghanistan. It's the worst loss of life in the country for the U.S. this year.
The bomb exploded in the southeastern province of Ganze City. Witnesses say the device went off as an American convoy was passing by on the highway. 3 other soldiers and an American contractor were also wounded. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for the attack. The names of the U.S. soldiers killed have not yet been released.
Just 3 days ago, another American soldier was killed. 25-year-old Sergeant Leandro A.S. Jasso was reportedly shot accidentally by an Afghan soldier, part of the partner force fighting insurgents in Afghanistan. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says the president is monitoring the situation there.
Certainly, anytime you have a loss of life, particularly by an American service member, it is a horrific tragedy and something that no president wants to see, certainly not during their administration. And the president wants to make sure that the battle that we're fighting takes place there and not here. And he's going to continue consulting with his national security team and make decisions on how best to move forward beyond that.
To discuss the American military position in Afghanistan, let's bring in retired U.S. Marine Corps Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff. She is currently a senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. And Jessie, it's been 17 years of the U.S. war in Afghanistan. Lately, unfortunately, more American soldiers' lives have been lost there. I think the first question we should ask is this a war that the United States can win?
Well, essentially, we also withdrew in 2014, and the brigadier general that's in charge over there, who had last been in there in 2010, had indicated that we withdrew too soon. I mean, he wasn't surprised that the Taliban had reoccupied Helmandad province and that their occupation has become a strategic threat to our national security. So is this something we can win? We have to win. Leaving does not mean you've won. It essentially gives your enemy an opportunity to become strong again and overpower the forces that you should hopefully have left behind. But we did not have any forces there to resist the Taliban. So returning, it is now a UN peacekeeping mission, is not entirely just American forces. We do have the support of other UN forces, such as Britain. The United Kingdom essentially has provided forces also. So I'm not surprised that this has happened. I am disappointed, and of course it's a tragic loss, and may the prayers be with the families who have lost their loved ones.
Jessie, as you know, the original mission in Afghanistan was to go after al-Qaeda, which, with the help from the Taliban, of course, established those training camps and carried out the attacks on 9/11. Now that the al-Qaeda has largely been defeated, the Taliban, of course, is still a problem. But, I mean, how do you determine what success is in Afghanistan at this stage?
Well, when you think about al-Qaeda, what did they morph into? They morphed into ISIS. To suggest that killing off one group is going to resolve the problem is pretty naive, because we really do have terrorist organizations throughout the world that have become a threat to all of Western civilization, including all of our allies. So when we talk about al-Qaeda being defeated, it is not necessarily a logical nor honest argument, because morphing into another form of this type of terrorism or this type of jihad is something that we're going to be facing as U.S. forces for probably decades to come, unless we stamp it out and keep our foot down on the neck of terror. It is like a snake. You must cut off the head, and you may not ever allow it to morph into other organizations.
But doesn't that suggest then that the 15,000? I'm sorry. Doesn't that suggest then that the 15,000 or so troops that are in Afghanistan now, that's not enough in your estimation, is it?
No, I wouldn't suggest that it is or is not enough. I think that it takes a UN peacekeeping force to be over there to monitor what's going on with Taliban. I don't think this should rest on the shoulders of all American forces. But let's make no mistake, all of the American men and women who have died overseas for our freedom should not be in vain because we just walk away. We have to ensure that we stamp this out and that we ensure our mission is clearly defined by this administration. If it becomes just a futile effort, then maybe we should withdraw, but I don't see that in the near future.
Jessie, just briefly, theoretically, can the United States maybe tell the Taliban, we have no dispute with you as long as you do not launch attacks outside of Afghanistan? If you do, we will retaliate.
I didn't understand your question. What is your question? I'm sorry.
Can the U.S. tell the Taliban, we have no dispute with you as long as you do not launch attacks outside of Afghanistan? If the Taliban launches such attacks, the United States will retaliate. Why isn't this a solution?
There is no reasoning with the Taliban. I think that would be very naive to suggest that we will not go and attack the Taliban as long as they behave well. That is essentially like asking a 3-year-old to ensure that they do not touch the fire. Until they have learned not to do what they're supposed to do, until you decimate and destroy the ideology that has become essentially the fear for all of Western civilization, I think that we will always have this threat. We have to make sure that they have gone away. But when you talk about the Taliban, the ideology of the Taliban is also sponsored in Pakistan. We've got no support from Pakistan. That's why the president has been so disgusted with the billions of dollars funneled over there. They protected Osama bin Laden. They essentially have funneled and given them the fuel for their fire. So the Taliban in itself, we have to have international support. This cannot be a United States against the Taliban issue. The international community has to rally together and stomp out this ideology that has become a threat to all of Western civilization.
Retired U.S. Marine Corps Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff. Jessie, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it. And Tal, I think one of the challenges is that in order for the United States to be successful overseas militarily, it's got to have the support of the American people. And right now, I don't think the American people support huge numbers of troops in Afghanistan in order to stomp out the Taliban.
I think you got the good point there in your question to Jessie. What's the very clear definition of winning this war?
Right.